Welcome to Sounds of Sud. I'm your host, Jasmine. This podcast is for all the music lovers and anyone that wants to learn more about working in the music industry. Bringing you interesting insights and wild stories from DJs to festival organisers, we talk to all of the people behind the scenes that make the magic happen. So make sure to hit subscribe and I'll see you on the dance floor. Welcome, Simonne. How are you?
I'm very well. Lovely to see you. How are you?
Good to see you too. We made it. How was your night last night?
Fantastic. We went to see Mahalia, who is an R&B singer from the UK. I thought I was going to see Mahalia Barnes, Jimmy Barnes's daughter, and got there and was like, okay, interesting. It's but she was really good.
Oh, so you went to see the completely different person to who you thought?
Yeah. A friend of mine just offered me some tickets and said, do you want to come along? And I was like, yep. Thinking it was Mahalia Barnes when she said Mahalia. It's the only Mahalia I knew, but this girl's like quite famous R&B singer from the UK, and she was really good. Yeah, like really, really beautiful vocals, and yeah, she had a big following. So yeah,
amazing. I love a spontaneous night out. I've had that before, like friends, because they know I like to go to gigs and stuff. If they've ever got spare tickets, oh, do you want to come here? And I'm like, I wouldn't necessarily pay to go because it's not someone I know or I would be that interested in. But then you go and you're like, wow, that was really good.
Well, that's exactly how last night was. Like my friend Kristen was just like, yeah, she's like, do you want to come along? I've got a spare ticket to this gig. And again, like I'm one of those people, like if it's live music, generally I'll always be up for it. I'll be like, okay, because you never know. Like I've learned about a new artist now. So yeah, it was really fun. It was really
exactly. Fun. That's the old slogan of my podcast. If you don't go, you won't know.
Exactly.
Anything could happen. Well, thank you for coming over on whatever night of the week this is. I don't even know anymore.
I think we're on Tuesday now.
Tuesday this week. So this is what day I would usually record anyway. So it's fine. We're just back on schedule.
Perfect.
So I have asked you to come over here because you are both a DJ and a singer, which is the first one for me on the podcast. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, so my name's Simonne Cooper. I started my career at the age of 13. I did a performing arts. I went to performing arts school here in Sydney called MacDonald College, and went to a Johnny Young Talent School. So there was a big TV show here in the 80s called Young Talent Time that produced stars like Tina Arena, Danny Minogue, and yeah, some many other stars. I was in their Sydney show group, and we used to do a lot of the big performances at the entertainment centre and stuff for them to like crowds of 30,000 at the age of 13. Performing arts has always sort of been in my blood, singing, dancing, etc. And then at the age of 16, I was invited to sing in some clubs in Sydney, and back then like R&B was sort of really big, and it was like 90s R&B, so I sort of started singing, live vocals with a DJ called Stephen Ferris, who is absolute god in this country, and started out with him. And then one of the clubs I was singing at just sort of said, look, we'll pay you double if you want to come and sing on the dance music night. And it was like, at that time, dance music was really taking off. It had come from the UK, which is now house music. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I was 16. You know what you're like at 16. Like, you think you're invincible, you can do anything. So like I was the first singer to be doing all live vocals over DJ sets in Sydney back in those, at that time. It was like 91, 92. And
the year before I was born.
Oh, really? Amazing. There you go. So I was just starting my life out, and you were a little pea in your mum's pod. So and there was a DJ called Johnny Gleason, who's also like classed as the godfather of house in Sydney, and a royalty for that house music industry. I teamed up with him and Chris Sims, who's a percussionist here in Australia, and the three of us just basically played in every club in Sydney all throughout the 90s. We had residencies in a lot of the clubs, and then I heard about this place called Ibiza, just a little island somewhere, and I was like, what's all this hoo-ha about? Like, let me go over. I'd been over to Europe the year before, to the UK, Paris, and the Greek islands, and San Fran and LA, basically just to go, and check it all out. And then the year later, I was like, I'm moving over. So I moved to the UK, went to Ibiza on my first trip, And the Ibiza story is a funny one, actually, because I literally turned up on my first day in Ibiza. My boss from Sydney had rung his cousin and said, listen, this girl's coming. She's, a quite well-known singer in Australia. Make sure you look after her, introduce her to the right people, get her into the clubs, do everything. So I was sort of like handed this like golden ticket into Ibiza, like with someone that was working in the industry, turned up at the house, taken to the closing of Amnesia that day. So it was the end of the season, the closing of Amnesia.
Why did you go there at the end of the season?
It was just the timing, like that when I'd left Australia in August and I'd flown to UK, and then this is when I moved to the UK like permanently. And then I just decided to move over. And so it was like, I want to go to Ibiza and check it out. Closing parties are apparently amazing, and they really are. So so I went over there on a week holiday, and the very first day I was there, we'd been out at Amnesia closing and then at Space. I ran into Johnny Gleason, which was random as hell. Like, we basically hadn't told each other that we were both going to Ibiza that season, but we'd obviously all been talking. Everyone in the scene had been talking about Ibiza.
And before social media, right?
This is way before there was anything like, where we all shared our experiences online or anything. We didn't have any of that, I mean, we barely had mobile phones back then.
Do you have lots of pictures from that period of time?
No, like that's the thing. Now you get pictures everywhere you go. I've got some, but only mostly from the photographers. Back then we used to have little digital cameras or disposable cameras or whatever. But so basically I went over there. And on my first day there, ran into Johnny on the dance floor. What are you doing here? It was crazy. We hadn't told each other. And that night I went home to the villa and I was just having a shower, and I'm one of those people when I'm happy I sing, so I was in the shower just singing, and the neighbor from the villa next door heard me through the courtyard, came over to the villa and was like, who's the girl singing? And they're like, oh, that's some girl from Australia, she's a singer. So when I came out of the shower literally with a towel wrapped around my head to this guy like accosting me like, we need to talk. I have my closing party on Thursday night at Space Ibiza, and I want you to come and sing at it. And like, obviously I was well known at the time in Australia, but to Ibiza I was nobody, and I'm just like, okay. So I sang at his closing party. It was called Blackout, German promoters, and I sang at the closing party on the Thursday. And then Pepe, the owner of Space, heard me and asked me to stay another week and sing at the closing of Space, which, I mean, anyone in the industry, like back in those days, knows, like Pepe Rosello, the owner of Space, asking you to sing at the closing of Space was just, like, it was iconic, like, it was epic. I was just, like bouncing off the walls with excitement. And I said, well, I've got a flight. He's like, I'll pay for your flight, your stay, etc. So I stayed the extra week and I sang at the closing of Space, which was like probably the best thing I'd ever done. Well, to that point, it was the best thing I'd ever done in my career.
Was that a turning point?
Massively, because I then got invited to sing at the opening the following year. So I decided to do the season that year, which was 99. From doing that opening party, Eric Murillo heard me singing, and that summer, on my birthday, we're at a villa. He was DJing, and he was like, "What do you want for your birthday?" I said, "I want to hit tracks." So he's like, "I'll tell you what, if you come to New York this winter, I'll go in the studio with you. We'll work on music. I love your voice. I think you're great." Blah blah blah. So I did. It's Eric Murillo. I mean, of course, I went to New York that winter, and when I got there, I hadn't warned him I was coming. I just sort of showed up, and he's like, "You showed up," and I'm like, "You're Eric Murillo.
You invited me.
You've asked me to come. Of course, I'm going to turn up." And he's like, "I love it. Fantastic." He's like, "Look, I'm just about to go on a 10-day tour, but Richard F is in the studio working on a track at the moment. Go in there and do a track with him. And I'll hear it when I come back." So I did. We went in the studio. We wrote my subliminal track, which is It Was Alright. We wrote that. I wrote it in 15 minutes. Then, it's a funny story, that almost didn't get released, that song, because Harry Chuchu Romero and Jose Nunez, who were also, they were subliminal, like, stalwarts. Richard was quite new to the family. They were doing another Latin house track, so they were like, oh no, Richard, Latin house is so, like, last year, it's over, it's done, don't worry about it. So Richard's like all nervous, like, oh, we need to start working on a different style. So we started working on another track. But I knew that track was the one, you know, it had something, and just the way, for me with songwriting, if I can sit down and the lyrics just flow, it's a good sign. If I struggle, if there's a block, then usually I just throw it away and come back to something later or leave it. But
Do you write songs for other people or just yourself?
I've written songs for a couple of other people, but like as a ghostwriter. So yeah, so they release it as their own track, but I've written the vocal and the lyrics, but mostly my own. Yeah. And so yeah, so with that story, like Eric came back from the trip. He heard the second song first, which I didn't like. He was sort of like, you know, a little, you know, bemused, like it's okay. And then I said, play him the first track. So we did, and he was like, that's the one. So in Subliminal Records at the time, there were 3 studios, Studio A, B, and C. Studio A was like $10,000 a day for the studio engineer. Studio B were for the tracks that were sort of going to be, you know, middle of the line, maybe not a bit massive budget. He didn't see them as going the full hog. And then Studio C was obviously for the you know, more, yeah, I can't even remember what they did in Studio C now, but I guess like maybe the more soulful sort of track, like, I don't know. And he just straight away said, take it straight to Studio A, which is like the like I said, the expensive studio with the big engineer.
Oh, so when you recorded it, it was just like a test? What do you mean?
So we just did a demo. We just wrote it and did a little demo. I don't even know if we recorded it or if I sang it live to him.
Oh, but then he's saying go and make it.
He's probably like, go and make the track, like get in the studio. So yeah, so we did it, and it was actually, yeah, a big hit for them. It's been on loads of compilation. It's on like Head Candy Anthems album. It was on like Ministry albums. It was on Pasha, lots of different compilations and stuff. So that was really the pivotal point of where my career changed. And you know, it was that moment where Eric just went, I see something in you, get in the studio and do it. And then from that one track, which became quite a big track for Subliminal, I ended up getting booked like that whole summer in Ibiza from the opening of Space. Sorry, I hadn't done the track yet. The opening of Space, I ended up getting booked that whole summer at Manumission, at like the opening of Eden, like all the parties in Ibiza that time. I was resident at like Amnesia, at Pasha and Space. Yeah.
So, sorry, just for mine. So yeah. I'm a little bit lost. So you went to England, went to Ibiza on holiday, extended your trip because you got invited for a week, and then the following year you've gone back
for the season.
And then you've just gone back for the season. And at any point in your time from leaving Australia, have you had a proper job, you know, or have you always just managed to float through with your professional singing?
Yeah, so I'm also a professional hairdresser. So in London, I had hairdressing during the week as a part-time sort of thing. So I had an agent over there, and I used to just go and do like freelance hairdressing, etc. Generally, after that track, after the Subliminal track, generally I was working enough to survive off singing alone.
Wow.
And this is way before I was a DJ.
Yeah. Okay, God, we haven't even got to that part yet.
Yeah, so I was just a singer for like most of my career. I've only been DJing about 9 years now.
Wow, so the only job you've had is a bit of hairdressing and being able to do this your entire life.
Yeah, and
that's so cool.
And most of my career, like not even the hairdressing, I didn't have time for the hairdressing because I was touring so much. Like after that track came out, I toured like all over the world, and was, you know, regularly weekend by weekend. So I couldn't do the hairdressing because no one would let me take the weekends off to fly to Italy or Germany or Austria or wherever I was playing.
That's amazing though. That's so cool.
Yeah,
I mean, cool to be able to say that that's been your career.
Yeah, I've been really, really lucky, and I've been really grateful that I've had those opportunities because, you know, the one thing I adore about what we do is getting up and actually having that wow moment every time you get on stage. Like I get to do this for a living. I mean, I do it for free because I love it. Promoters, that doesn't mean you don't have to pay us. But like, yeah, I mean, I just love it. I just love what I do. And, you know, like any job, there are also tedious moments where you're like, I gotta go to work tonight, you know, of course. But what I mean is I've had a, you know, 30 plus year career to be able to travel the world and do what I love to do. So yeah, I've been really happy and grateful about that. So from there, I lived in Ibiza for years. I just basically was really fortunate. Again, a sort of serendipitous moment. There wasn't really anyone at the time in Ibiza singing in all the clubs with, you know, like there were the
Just you?
Well, when I say just me, I was the only sort of resident stalwart doing it. Like at the time, now there's loads, but back then it was obviously Barbara Tucker, Jocelyn Brown, Martha Wash, all of those women coming over for the big events, but on the island all summer singing over all the DJs and on all the clubs there weren't. So I just got loads of work because there wasn't any competition at the time.
Like, is that sustainable to be singing like multiple times a week?
Yeah, look, I didn't have to do it too many times. That's a great thing about, because it was a bit of a niche and there wasn't anyone doing it. I could charge enough to basically be doing it just 1 or 2 nights a week and still, you know, surviving on that. Because I could charge a little more because it was a bit more niche. So I was lucky in that sense. But also, like, I've always been very, very careful with my voice. I've never smoked. If I've got big gigs coming up, you know, I won't have massive night or whatever. I mean, you know, I've done it before and I've still gone to work. I'm not a saint, but I've generally had to be very, very cautious with what I do before big gigs, because it does take a lot of vocal power, especially with the type of music I do, because a lot of it's very big diva vocals, and so you can't really do it on no sleep often, or you just lose your voice. I mean, I've lost my voice many times.
Have you ever had to cancel a gig because you've lost your voice?
Yes. Like numerous, yeah.
That must be a really horrible feeling.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I try not to do it. I'll always like try my best to do vocal rest the day before, and like what if I've got a cold or something and do vocal rest. But as I've gotten older, it happens less and less. So generally I haven't had to, like in years now, I haven't had to cancel a gig for vocal problems, you know, so.
Oh, interesting. I would have thought it'd be the other way around, like most problems in life, you know, they start as you get older.
Smarter now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not as frivolous with my partying and going out and not looking after, you know, my voice as I was back then. Obviously you're young, you're in Ibiza, it's fun, you want to go to the after party, you want to do this, whereas now I'm like, right, no, I've got a big gig coming up. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it is work. It's a career, and you can't. I think one of the things that a lot of the promoters that I've worked with over the years have said to me is the reason I've had such longevity in my career is because I am so professional, and I will, you know, show up and do the job, etc. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we've gone to so you've been living in Ibiza, you're in London, you've got the records, things change. Then what year is this, and what's happened in between?
Yeah, so like basically that's as I said, 98 was when I first went there. 99 I did the season, and then all the way through. So I was there on and off for 23 years. And moved to Dubai in 2008.
What was that like?
Yeah, very interesting. Again, being in Dubai, it was a very new scene. It was really up and coming. I mean, so much has changed. I was, you know, 11 years there, saw the whole progression of the underground music scene and like house music scene over there.
You stayed in Dubai for 11 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I used to do the summers in Ibiza, and then the winters in London for 10 years, and then the summers in Ibiza and the winters in Dubai for 11 years. So
yeah, I was going to say, London is not a place you want to be in the winter. Freezing.
I did the winters there. But yeah, it was very grey after 4 o'clock.
I'm surprised you didn't come home to Australia for this winter.
I did, loads, yeah. I came home for holidays, you know, so maybe a few weeks, a month, something like that, many times. I used to try and do it almost every year or every other year. So that was nice. Yeah, I still had work back in the UK, whereas coming back to Australia, it wasn't like everyone flung the doors open and went, oh, Simonne Cooper's back, you know. But there's that sort of funny tall poppy sort of thing going on in Australia, so you have to beat with that. And if I had loads of work in Europe, even though winter's actually quite a busy time as well in Europe, which is great.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
it's always busy.
Yeah.
Everything's so well connected. London would be busy 7 nights of the week.
Exactly.
There's always something going on.
So connected hub-wise to airports around Europe. So I was every weekend flying into, like I said, Portugal, Austria, Germany, France, like, you know, Russia, wherever.
So did you have an agent, or do you have an agent now?
No, it was. I had an agent in Italy when the Subliminal track came out. It was on the radio every day on a radio station called Radio Ibiza Network in the southern part of Italy. So from that, I had an agent that I was working so much in Italy. I worked, like, you know, pretty much like lots of, not every weekend, but lots of time, like lots from 2001 or 2 right through to, like, say 2000, and it was a good sort of like 4 years of consistent going back and forth to there. So that was really fun. I love Italy. So
where's your favorite place you've ever been?
Ever? I mean, Ibiza is definitely my favorite place ever, but for many reasons, because it became my home. I've got lots of friends there. I know lots of the really special little places on the island, so you get that affinity with it. And yeah, it's just such a magnetic, beautiful island. Where else have I been that I've really... I mean, Paris. I love Paris. Naples in Italy, Napoli, is one of my favourite places.
Damn, I just booked to go to Milan a few days ago.
Milan's great. I've been to Milan many times. Milan's really fun. Shopping's great. Go to the outlet. It's really good. In the outskirts of Milan, there's a big outlet store.
Oh, we're flying with bloody Ryanair. I'm not sure I'll have the baggage.
Oh, no, you won't. They'll kill you.
We're going to Defected in Croatia, and then I'm going over to see my nana in Spain. But there was no good flights from where we were in Croatia. I would have had to drive hours in the middle of the night. So I was like, why don't we see where we can fly to and then go on to Spain? And Milan was one of the only places.
Yeah.
So I was like,
so you're only a stop over there?
For 3 days, yeah.
Okay.
Just 3 days. We're going to go to Lake Como.
Lake Como's beautiful.
Yeah. Just anything. It was purely for a convenience and to just go. I've never been to Italy before, so it's exciting.
That's a nice thing, I think, about Europe, that you can do those sort of things. You can just stop into a hub like Milan or whatever, take a drive, go up to, you know, different parts.
Yeah, just pop in on your way past. Yeah, I'm super excited. Super excited.
Defected will be off the hook. I'm definitely going next year.
Have you been before to that one?
I haven't. Yeah,
I've heard such good things. I'm so excited.
I was actually having dinner with Wes Saunders just this now with Barbara Tucker in Ibiza last summer, and I met him for the first time, and his beautiful wife. His wife's awesome. And she told me their love story and how they met and everything. So he's taken over Defected now. He runs Defected.
I went to Simon's last DJing show at Glitterbox.
Oh yeah.
Last January, not this one.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
There, yeah.
He was there absolutely pumping the place at 5 o'clock in the morning. So good.
I know, yeah, he's brilliant. But it's nice that he's like devoting a little bit of time to his wife and his family and stuff as well.
He literally, I was reading a lot of his posts. He's quite a good writer. He writes really good posts, and he was saying like, I've just spent my whole life working on my career, and I've sacrificed time with my kids, and now I'm ready to, you know, enjoy it.
And now his boys are like DJing, and they're flying the coop, and they're off. So he's like backing them. It's a really nice story. They're a really lovely family. Like his wife's really awesome too.
She looks so cool.
I know,
she's so
cool.
Funky. A vibe, yeah.
She's
a proper
so
vibe.
funky, yeah.
I can imagine you guys being friends. Actually, you got similar kind of.
Yeah, I've met her a couple of times. The first time I met her was in Dubai, and then I met her when at that gig that you're talking about at Glitterbox. And then on the boat the next day, I think it was the next day or whatever it was, the boat party, and had a good chat to her. So she's really lovely. She's very, very down to earth. But she was really looking forward to him taking some time off and then being able to, you know,
enjoy themselves together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's cute. They look like a really cute couple. All right, so sorry, jumping around a bit. I'm actually, I don't know if anyone has noticed, I have been getting a lot better at this. But at the beginning, it was like so chaotic. So you've gone to Ibiza. Like, when did you come back? When did you stop doing that arrangement of going Ibiza, Dubai? So
COVID, in March of 2020. So I was in Bali, and then we got the news, everyone get back to your respective countries because we're going to close the borders, the world's going to shut down. Now, I'd already planned to come back in May that year to Sydney because my mum was going through chemo. My mum had cancer. So I'd planned to come back and be here for her chemo and then go back to Dubai. And then I was planning to do the Expo 2020, which is that World Expo that travels all around the world. And that was going to be in Dubai, and I was basically helping with the entertainment in the Australian pavilion. So it was a big role. It was, a lot of things going on. And then they said they were shutting the borders, and I was planning to move back to Australia in 21, the beginning of 21. Anyway, after years away, because with my mum having cancer, I just realized it's time for me to come home and spend a bit of time with the family and everything. I'd been gone like 22 years. And so I basically had a big decision to make. Do I just pack up now and move back to Australia now? I mean, at the time, there was so much uncertainty. We had no idea how long the lockdowns were going to happen, what was going to happen to the world. I don't think any of us at that time in March expected what was going to happen, and it was going to be 2 years long.
So my boss in my previous job, he said to me, I worked in a logistics company, hands-on office, guys on the floor. I could technically do my job from home, but it was difficult. It's an operation-based role. And he said, all right, guys, I need you to get your desks ready so that if we need to pack your computers up and send them to your house, so everyone works for home from 2 weeks while they do a lockdown.
2 weeks.
For 2 weeks while they do a lockdown, we need to be able to do that. I laughed in his face and said, Sebastian, what are you talking about? I said, he's a crazy Italian man. It was so, a pleasure to work with, but I was like, what are you talking about? What is all this nonsense? Don't be so silly. I said, and then sure enough, 2 years later, everyone is at home. And that was a crazy, crazy time. And then everyone left. All my friends left.
Yeah.
All my friends.
Well, they probably had to because of visas and
No, they just got scared.
Oh, they got scared. Yeah.
And I was fortunate that I kept my job through the whole thing.
Our industry wasn't that lucky.
No, of course not.
We were shut down and not able to go to work and not able to, so many. I know a lot of musicians, a lot of artists during that time had to give up their studios, had to sell off their music equipment just to pay their rent. It was a really tough time for a lot of artists. I'm fortunate that I came back to Australia with some savings, because obviously I'd planned to move back. So I put all my stuff on a ship and shipped it back here and moved back here.
But what did you do? Were you entitled to anything from the Australian government?
No, see, the thing is, because I hadn't been living here, so I wasn't entitled to all of the benefits that you guys got. And my business, I was self-employed, but it was less than 2 years old. So you guys were getting $750 a week or something.
I was working.
You were working, but a lot of people were. But yeah, no, I wasn't entitled to that. So I just kept dipping and dipping and dipping into my savings.
Did you move back to look after your mum?
No, I came back for her chemo. I didn't live with her because I had to get a flat, so I was paying rent, and
at least it was cheaper back then.
It was way cheaper, and I was really lucky at the time. I found a cute little 1-bed in Bondi. This girl was moving out, so I took over her lease, and she'd had COVID rent, so I continued that.
For the first time ever, the rent prices were reasonable in Sydney.
I know.
People were all getting rent reductions. Mad.
I know.
Mad.
And then it's gone all mental now, but yeah. So moving back was, it was a big sort of shock to me as someone who had built a career overseas and built a name and had, gigs just flying. And you were asking before about me having management. I didn't need it. I had the guy in Italy for years, but the rest of the world, I didn't need it. In Ibiza, I never had one.
So you're just doing it yourself?
Well, I didn't need it, as in people would just call me for gigs and they would just fly in. So I didn't need to I didn't need a manager back then. And so I was just constantly busy because of the work I was doing. Then people would see Simonne Cooper and, as I said, the subliminal track, and then doing live performances. And I've got... one of the things I was quite well known for is being able to freestyle over any DJ, never hear the track before, and make it sound like it was rehearsed or make it sound like it was a record and stuff. So you would sing as if one of the boys chucks a Dex on with a song with no lyrics, so you make your own lyrics to it. I'm freestyle lyrics, make them up, or sing maybe, a song in the same key that's well known, but I'll just freestyle the whole set and know when the drops are coming, know when the crescendo is happening, etc. So because that's quite a niche thing, I got lots of work from being able to do that, you know, and honing in on that sort of, like I say, like a niche sort of talent of that. And then from there, I just, built up my career, you know, and my name. So as I said, moving back here, the biggest sort of, I suppose, difficulty for me was just starting my career all over again, you know, in my 40s. Like, oh my god, I'm literally starting all over again
in a pandemic,
in the middle of a pandemic, not knowing.
That must have been so hard, because it was it was hard for everyone. It was like, there was points in time I was like, am I ever gonna actually see my family again? Like, because the borders were shut for so long, and I was like, I actually always thought that if I wanted to leave, I could leave at any time. It just would be a hassle to come back. But then I realised, because I was a citizen or a PR or whatever I had back then, I actually needed permission to leave. And I said, how can I be told I have to stay in a country I wasn't even born in? I'm not allowed to leave. What the fuck? I was like, I was okay, but it was getting to a point where I was like, I really need to see my family. Like, it's been so long. Was your mum okay, by the way?
Yeah. So part of the reason I stayed in Oz was because a year later, after that tumour was removed and she went through remission, another tumour appeared in the same area. So then she had to go through chemo and radiation, and that was in the thick of it, when I wasn't even allowed to go in the hospital sometimes. And, you know, it was, so I got special permission. The surgeon was amazing, the surgeon that worked with my mum, and got me special permission to go into ICU and see her when she was straight out of the operation and stuff. So we were pretty lucky with that. She's doing really well, and she's fought it twice. She's an absolute trooper, so she's fought it twice. But from that, I just decided I think it's time I stay in Sydney for a little bit. You know, the one thing with family, you never get them back. So, like, ultimately, I've had an amazing career and amazing travels overseas, and I'm not saying I'll never go back. But it sort of got to a point where I thought, you know, I need to stay here for a bit and get my roots. But over the last 3.5 years, well, actually coming in June, it'll be 4 years, won't it? Yeah. It'll be 4 years in June. It's gone so fast. Well, slow and fast. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. There's times where it seems slow, and then there's times where it's gone, that was 4 years ago. Like, what?
It's funny, my boyfriend that you met on the way in, like, we got together at the start of COVID, so we've been together 4 years, and it's like, in one sense, I can't remember when he wasn't there, but in the other sense, I'm like, Jesus, how have we been together for 4 years?
2 minutes ago.
Yeah, 2 minutes ago.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. So look, it's been a roller coaster. There's been times where I'm packing it up, I'm going back overseas, where I'm recognized, where I'm, you know, where I don't have to work to get my name, you know, get my foot in the door. And I've been really lucky. You know, some of the promoters here have been really great. You know, I'm working with Matt from One Hit. I do some gigs at Ivy. I'm just about to start working with Rod Richards. I've worked with, you know, some great promoters and some great events here. I did my first Return to Rio gig at the Sisters event, which I'm really excited. After going to Return to Rio, I was like, I want to play for these guys. They're so good.
So when we went, the one we were talking about before we came in, you haven't, that was your first time, and you didn't play, you just went as an attendee.
I just went as an attending. So I wanted to hit Ricky up, like, when I'd heard about it for a while, because it kept getting cancelled, obviously because of COVID and all the other things. And I'd wanted to hit him up and just sort of say, hey, I'd really love to play for your event. I've heard how everyone raves about Return to Rio. But I've got this, I don't know, sometimes I just don't like the whole cold calling thing, like, oh, hey, you know. Other times, if I know people, I'll be a bit bolshy and say, hey, you know, if you want to put me on a lineup, I'm here, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like I just didn't want to, like, you know, out of the blue, random, hey. And it worked out that actually his best friend has known me from Ibiza for like 20-something years. If I knew that, I just would have been like, get me on the lineup. But yeah, look, I thought I'll just go along and, you know, just get part of the family and get to know them, and you know, like, obviously not come in cold calling, like, actually get to know them and stuff. And it was the best festival I'd been to in years, you know, aside from Burning Man. It was just amazing.
What did you do for accommodation?
We were camping.
camping.
Yeah, right next to where Ricky's little house was, Ricky and Alex's little thing.
Sure.
Yeah, just near the river, like, you know, there.
In the main end, because we were there and we had a Renegade stage going all night.
I came to that on the last night.
Yeah, but it was pumping that all 3 nights.
Yeah.
Mad.
Yeah.
Mad.
Yeah. That's not that side. We were at a different side.
You were at the other side. Yeah,
we
that
were at
makes
the other side, like over where, you know, like...
Where the glamping was.
Where the glamping was.
Away from the riffraff.
Oh, I mean, there was riffraff everywhere, wasn't there? We were part of the riffraff, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, it was just so amazing. But I really, really wanted to play for Rio. But again, didn't want to hit him up. And then serendipitously, they had a sisters event, which was like all celebrating all female DJs. And I remember first seeing it and going, gutted, I'd love to have been on that lineup. And it was like Cassette, Alex Hardwick, I don't know if Danny B, I can't remember. There was you know, a bunch of amazing girls on it. And funnily enough, I then get a message from Ricky after that event saying, hey, we've got this new event called Sisters, would love to put you on the lineup. And Andrew Parks had recommended me, and his wife Kelly was playing, and I was just like, yes, that's like, you know, getting in. And then so then I got really good feedback from him and Alex just saying, oh, we heard you did an amazing set, you know, blah blah. So that was really nice. That was at Abercrombie.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was nice. I mean, I did an event recently for Clockwork Orange that came over from the UK. And there was some people there that, you know, like Shane SOS and Julian and Damo, who runs T1 Then. And these were people that I, you know, had wanted to be on their radar, but they hadn't yet seen me play and hadn't yet sort of seen what I could do. And that gig I did both vocals and DJing together. And, you know, the 3 of them separately came up to me on that event and just said, you fucking smashed it, you know. I'm allowed to swear, sorry.
Yeah. So what you want.
And that was a really nice feeling for me, because, you know, when you, like, there's certain people that I respect in the industry here.
Nice to get that feedback.
And you get really good feedback from someone that you admire and respect. So that was really good. And then from there, I guess, I'll find this story out later, but I guess Damo went back to Rod and said, you know, hey, you should look at this chick. So I'm now playing this Saturday at the Mel C event from the Spice Girls.
Oh, are you? Yeah. With Jess from House of Low-Key?
Yes, exactly.
Well. Yeah, they both sharing that. Yeah, she came on a couple of weeks ago. She's lovely.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. She's awesome. So yeah, so there's quite a few of us. Moves Amaze, Jess, Nikki, Carvel.
At the Stain?
It's at the Stain.
Yeah, so I went there. I saw Armin van Helden there a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I saw
so good.
Post.
Yeah, it's really good.
I was working, so I missed so many great events in Sydney because I'm always DJing and working and stuff. But yeah, so I performed with Armin actually in Dubai.
Did you?
Yeah,
I love him.
Dubai. Yeah, he's amazing.
Love him.
And he's really humble, really lovely guy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like super cool. And like, how can he still, I don't know if you, it's not what I posted, it was on a story. I'll show it to you when we finish. We've got a video in there and like we're in the dance floor, and I don't usually like being in the mosh. I usually like to be like on the left or the right, and like I get a bit claustrophobic. And the place was absolutely popping up, and like, but the actual people dancing, not like just videoing and stuff. And don't get me wrong,
because it's that crowd more appreciate. We didn't have mobile phones back then, and everyone was like into just the music and dancing. So that's why it's different, you know.
So when did you actually start DJing? I feel like we skipped over that part.
Yeah, so 2016. So it's sort of on and off. Actually, the very first time I ever played back in the 90s with Eric was with Eric Murillo at an after party in London, and he basically gave me a lesson with his vinyl. So
do you play vinyl?
Pretty cool. I do, yeah, but I don't do it as much anymore because just the reason I stopped playing vinyl is mostly because of carrying record boxes around. I mean, you know, I'm tiny. They were too heavy. It was a big thing. It was like, no. And again, singing was just an easier option. I just used to have to turn up. They'd have everything provided for me and I'd just sing. So, you know.
How much of your time do you spend singing versus DJing?
Now it's flipped. So I used to be obviously more of a singer, and now I DJ way more than I sing, which is great because it gets me to save my voice for the special occasions. So this gig that I'm doing for the Mel C gig, that is a live gig, so I'll do vocals and a DJ set.
Oh, will you?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, and I just save that for sort of special gigs. If I get booked to do a live vocal and a DJ set, then I'll do that. Otherwise, I'll just DJ and save my voice, or I'll do sometimes just live PAs, which won't be a DJ. I'll go and actually sing and do a live PA. So it depends on what I'm booked for. But yeah, so that about 2016, and I was in Ibiza for the season, and my friend, like a friend, and I started a night up there, and we basically just started, I was just DJing, and I was doing like a lot of deep house back then. And then that just sort of took off. Then I went back to Dubai and I just got residencies, and obviously doing 4 nights a week DJing, you really get to hone your skills and see where your mistakes are, etc., while getting paid for it, which was lucky. And yeah, and I just, like when you've been in the industry this long, and singing to me now is just second nature. I still love it. I still get butterflies on really special gigs and stuff, but it's so second nature to me. So learning to DJ and actually, DJing was just like this excitement again, to be excited about going to work and learning and, new things, etc., etc. And I feel like, because the first time I got on the decks, I sort of just knew what to do. And I was like, how did that happen? And it really goes into sort of cognitive memory recognition and stuff. Like, I've been in the biggest DJ booths in the world with the biggest DJs in the world for like 20 something years before I'd started DJing. And obviously you watching over like them playing, it must have been stored in a memory bank somewhere, so that when I first got on the decks and started I just knew what to do. Like, I didn't have any lessons. I never had any DJ lessons. No one ever taught me. I just sort of worked my way through it. Now and again, I'd call a mate up and go, how do you do this or whatever, when I was first starting out. Cleo, if you're listening, taught me about, like the different filters and how, bringing your bass and your treble down and then bring it up.
I was talking to the wrong person. I know nothing.
Yeah, well, just small little tips that changed everything, for rather than just bringing a track in with your fader, like your actual bringing your fader up, you can turn your treble and your bass down to sort of make it and blend it nicer and stuff. That changed everything, because obviously, yeah, I didn't know that before. So little things like that, you'd get tidbits from other DJs.
It was just practice.
Yeah, it was just practice. It was just literally doing it day in and day out. And I say that to all, like I get a lot of people ask me now, will you give me DJ lessons? I teach DJing sometimes as well. And I'm like, yeah, the one thing I teach them in the beginning is just listen to beat matching and get that back and forth A lot of time what happens with when you're first starting out, you just want to like play all the big songs, you want to do this, but you literally have to get those nitty gritty little details perfected and then move on to everything else. So I love that I wish I'd done it way earlier in my career.
Oh really?
Yeah,
like love DJing.
I love it. I love learning new tracks. I love the research. I mean, it takes hours sometimes a week. Hours and hours sifting through thousands of tracks to find 20 gems,
That's what I'm going to say to you. Obviously it sounds like you've got a lot going on, and some of the things we were going to touch on we haven't even got to yet. What does your average week look like on a normal week?
Well, again, it's never the same.
Okay,
Every
no
week
such thing.
No, literally, it is never the same. So it really depends on what's going on work-wise, what I've got to prepare for, etc. But yeah, a lot of the beginning of the week is maybe invoicing, like downloading. If I've got big gigs that week, I'll download different, new music, put folders together, get all of that together. And I'm starting up a new business, which we'll touch on if we've got time. So I've been doing a lot of I'm doing an online business course and doing a lot of stuff like that. And then if I now and again maybe have a hairdressing client or something, I'll do that.
I thought you were going to say hairdressing appointment. I was like, surely that can't be in your...
Surely that's it every week.
Yeah.
Every week I have a hairdressing appointment.
But it is a beautiful colour hair, so maybe it does need it.
It needs it quite often now as I'm getting more greys popping in. But
don't even get me started on the grey hair.
honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, yeah. So we
The
got
bane of the existence. But yeah, so, and then obviously weekends, depending on if I'm doing like a midweek, so Wednesday or a Thursday gig. And then I just mostly gig almost every weekend. Now and again, like I'll get a weekend off, but generally, hopefully, most every weekend I'm playing. And yeah, and then if I ever get downtime, it's mostly just to go to a Bushduff or like a Return to Rio or a Peachy event, which is a little Bushduff community I'm part of. And so yeah, that's it. And then like the last 2 years I've gone back to Ibiza for a few months for the season.
You going this year?
I'm not this year because I'm really going to get this Bondi Creative Hub business off the ground. So I just need to really stay. Like the last 2 years I've wanted to sort of get it, happening. I've gone over to the UK and Ibiza for gigs, but I've gone for work. But I've gone for like, 2.5, 3 months, 3.5 months. And then I come back and then have to get that momentum going again. And then just get straight into the busy season of Christmas and, New Year gigs and etc. This year I decided to stay here and really get, find the location, get this off the ground, get all the funding and everything, the necessary stuff to make it happen. And then also I've started up actually it's a couple of years old now, but all-female house music orchestra called House Odyssey. And that's my new baby. So
that sounds fun. What's that?
So yeah, so I was the lead singer of the Ibiza House Orchestra for like 5 years, which was one of the most exciting things I'd done in years, like performing like some of the biggest house like anthems of all time, Ibiza house anthems, with a 14-piece orchestra with strings and horns, and yeah,
wow.
it was just incredible. And during COVID, obviously the borders were closed here, but they weren't in Europe. They were they started to open up a lot sooner than us. We were still in lockdown, and the borders were closed. And so Mike, who's the MD of the Ibiza House Orchestra, and I had a very tearful conversation on the phone about. He's like, what are you going to do? Obviously, the borders, we had no idea when they were going to open the borders back then. Like, we were sort of jailed here. And so they'd got some gigs already lined up. So he's like, I'm going to have to replace you. Like, I need to, we can't sort of turn down these gigs. And I totally understood it. I wouldn't want them to, like,
no, of
the
course
rest
not.
of them to not do it for me because I was stuck here. And basically, during that time, I got an opportunity. Amy, who runs the Bondi Beach Babes, was putting on a Women in Music event at Beach Road Hotel and was putting all female music acts together and said, can you put a band together? And I was like, yeah, of course. And then I started thinking about it. Well, why don't I orchestrate it? Because I loved being in the orchestra and it was such an amazing time for me. I was like, why not get some strings in and we'll make it, orchestrated. And so House Odyssey was formed.
In what year?
That was in 22. So yeah, so like, yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years old?
2 years ago, yeah. So actually this July, so it's just under 2 years now. And so we did that gig. It was great. It was a lot of fun. The audience loved it. We just loved, doing it. And so we've just been sort of evolving. So now we've added in 2 horns, another violin player. So we're just sort of growing and expanding and working on our set lists and stuff. So we've got a big gig coming up next month. And then we're going to go in the studio and start working on some originals and release some tracks. And then sort of basically prepare for festival seasons. The orchestra, we want you.
The orchestra goes to the festival?
We'll perform at the festival, yeah.
Yeah, but has that happened previously?
Not yet. No, not yet. So like basically I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I'm a Virgo, so I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I feel like sometimes you get one chance to make that first impression. So I wanted to have the right lineup and I really wanted to put horns in, so saxophone and trumpet, and was struggling to find good female horn players in Sydney. Like, yeah, it was like overseas, obviously you've got a much bigger population. There's so many more people.
Have you got everyone you need now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so just serendipitously I was manifesting like the shit out of it. I was like, asking the universe, please, I want to like young driven horn players. And I saw like literally last week or the week before a video of a girl playing saxophone, and she looked really fun and cute and da da da. And then I started, looking through her socials and found a TikTok of her with a trumpet player and went, okay, there you go. So I called her up and she was like, I love the idea. They're both really excited to come on board. So
amazing. That's so fun.
So
nice when it comes together like that.
It really gives you faith in believing, like, just don't give up. Keep manifesting. Always manifest. I'm a really, really strong manifester. I believe that if you don't give up and you just keep your goal going, like, look, roller coaster's going to happen. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But
you sound like me.
Yeah.
Literally, I say that.
Probably like most people, we all have a bit of a roller coaster, don't we?
No, I mean like the whole thing, just keep going, roller coaster. I'm like, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, just keep going. It all works out in the end, even if it's shit for a bit.
There's a saying that my best friend showed me a few years ago, and it's like, what's meant to you will not pass you by. And it's I've got that constantly in the back of my head. If something's meant for you, it'll happen. And I feel like the way that this is just serendipitously worked out is it's meant to be. Like, this is a great thing. I'm very, very passionate about supporting women in music, and moving through the barriers of that gender divide. In our industry has always been very heavily male driven. So I was very tempted when I was struggling to find the right musicians to just make it a unisex.
Really?
Well, yeah, for a little bit.
You wanted to follow through that.
Because I just wanted to get it moving and get it, get us in the festivals, get us out there, because we were talented musicians who were doing this great thing, but we were stuck because we couldn't find the right lineups. And so there was a moment where I was like, should I just make it unisex, and then we open ourselves up to a massive pool of talent? And it was actually Johnny Gleason that said to me, it's such a unique selling point. Stay all female. You're the first in the world. We're the first all female house music orchestra in the world.
Oh, the one in Ibiza is mixed?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're the first all female one. So I mean, for me,
well, don't tell everyone. You need to go out. You need to start.
Well, we're already existing. So even if someone started it, we're still the first.
Oh, because
we're already existing. We've already done gigs. We're already on social media. Someone else can come along and copy it, but we've already done it.
Okay, I thought you were saying you hadn't done it yet. So where was your first gig?
So it was Beach Road. We did a big charity event also for KAYAP, which is a women's foundation for domestic violence and etc. at Town Hall, at Sydney Town Hall, which was amazing. Like, the Town Hall is iconic.
I've never been in it.
So beautiful. Yeah, I mean, obviously I grew up in Sydney, and like I performed at the Opera House, in my teens, but never really had done Sydney Town Hall. So having us on that stage is like
pinch you moment.
It was really, there's been some pinch me moments in my career, and having this new, with this orchestra, it is, like I said, it is my baby, and it's like this new project that I'm really passionate about, because I do want to push and support the whole women in music thing. And so having something like this, so we're looking for a female manager right now, we're looking for female sound engineer. Like, I really want to bring it on board as much as possible. Not saying we won't have guys, there might be now and again. We'll bring guys on as a guest, as a cameo, and come and perform with us, So I love men in music as well. There's nothing, it's not a divide that I want to create. It's just that I feel like, okay, well, yeah, he's right. Johnny was right with it. It is a unique selling point. It is something a little quirky and different. Let's just roll with it. So yeah, we just, so female musicians, if you're seeing this, get in touch with me. We want to just keep building it. So
yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I went to a Women in Music networking event a little while ago, maybe like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I was going to go to that. It was breakfast, right?
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
It was this beautiful girl called Gia Vaughan sang. She's actually got a gig tomorrow, I think. She was beautiful, and like her voice was incredible. She just did a few songs at the end.
Amazing.
It was really cool. So with your workload and everything, especially since COVID, have you ever like found yourself in a hairy spot, like where like you're not sure if you're going to get work and you're worried about? Have you always had Yeah.
Yeah, there's literally, and it's the first time in my career where it's been like that, because as I said, overseas, I really built up a name and I've been quite busy. There's been moments here, because I don't have a day job, I don't have a full-time career, where I've literally been like, crap, I'm scraping the barrel here, like, yeah, and thought of going and getting a full-time job, etc., etc.
And how do you navigate that?
I'm quite good with money, so like I'm quite good at just not being super spendthrift. Like if I know that I don't have big gigs coming up and stuff like that, I'll just spread the money coming in. What's really hard here in Sydney is sometimes the payments come through like 2 months later or something. You know, it's not like you get paid after, like, day after the gig or the week after the gig. Some payments just are really slow. I've not experienced that as much overseas. So you're like, sort of like, okay, well, I did Mardi Gras 2 months ago and I'm still waiting for, you know, that pay. Or
And what's their reason?
I don't know, maybe someone left, because I think someone left the position and stuff like that. So it's just maybe a lot of the time it's generally the account section, someone's on holidays, someone's left, you know, it's whatever. But the thing is, they don't realize that for full-time artists, or even artists that are just, you know,
You need the money.
supplementing it, we need it. Like, we need it weekly, or we need it when, you know, we do it. So I've heard this a lot recently from people in the industry, just like saying, like, not just music, but, you know, in the arts in general, people saying like, I haven't been paid and I've been waiting. And, you know, it's like, you don't go into a supermarket and say, I'll just pay you next week when I get paid. Like, then, you know, so I feel like we need to push a little harder with, you know, just making it the norm that you do a gig and you just get paid straight away. Like, there shouldn't be a delay.
Yeah, that's really
There's
hard.
no reason why that a transfer can't be done. It's so quick. That can't be done the next day after the gig. So yeah, I you know, I'd like to see that sort of change in the industry. But yeah, just to sort of go back to your question, yeah, like there have been hairy times where I've just been like, maybe it's time to go back overseas, and, you know, like my life over there is a lot easier and work flows in a lot quicker. You know, as I said, my name is a lot bigger over there. So
Well, I suppose if you've been, like, I've been gone from home for 9 years, I can't imagine 22 and then going back. It's like just starting again.
I'm starting from scratch.
You may as well be going somewhere completely different after all that time.
Well, that's exactly right. So, like, you know, a lot of the new promoters here weren't around back in the 90s when I was a big name. Like, they, you know, don't
No idea who you are.
You know, as I said, slowly they're starting to get to know me now, because I'm you know, getting out there and building my name. But it's taken a while, and it's, you know, it's taken longer than I expected. Thinking, you know, if you've had a big international career, like working overseas, done, you know, like Ibiza, residencies, things like that, I thought I'd come back and it'd just be so easy. But I found that I've had to work slightly harder than I expected. So that's been a little like yeah, it's been a bit of a slap in the face. If anything, I'm one of those people who always look at the upside of everything. It's made me work harder at my craft.
And probably made you really appreciate it a lot more. You probably got quite complacent after all that time, and
You
just
do.
having it handed to you, you know, pretty easily by the sounds of it.
Well, this is the thing. I think, like, now what it's made me realize is that I really need to work a little bit more on, like, things like social media, getting like a new photo shoot, for press kits, things like that, because you're competing with some of these, you know, much younger, like millennial kids that have got the TikToks and they've got the accounts and they've got, you know, 20,000 followers or 40,000 followers or 80,000 followers or whatever. They're out there grinding every week, putting podcasts up, doing this, doing that, doing everything. And you're like, well, I should just be, you know, by my name, you know, like being able to do it. And it's like, it doesn't work like that anymore. You know?
Even happens to huge celebrities. One day they just go off the radar.
Exactly.
Off the radar. And sorry, I hope this doesn't come across in any way rude. So if it does, tell me to fuck off.
Yeah.
But do you have any concerns about, like, as you get older and like what you're gonna do? Like, you're not always gonna be, you know, the most sought after. Like, it's just unfortunately just part of life. I wish it wasn't, but as a woman, like a woman who's getting older, it's quite scary.
And look. The only thing I will say about it is that the one thing that I suppose keeps me A little relaxed on it is some of the biggest house music vocalists in the world are in their 60s and 70s, like Jocelyn Brown and Martha Wash, and still working all over the world, still performing. So I'm obviously not of that caliber, but I still know that vocals and music and recording and stuff there is. But you've got to have the big tracks out. So this year, like I said, I want to work more in the studio and releasing more tracks and things like that, because the thing about my industry is you're only really as popular as your last track or your last gig, you know. So like if you, like you say, do sort of drift off to the wayside a little bit, people forget so quickly. You've got to be constantly in their faces doing gigs, or, you know, with tracks, releasing tracks and stuff. And I, you know, went through a bit of a period where I wasn't recording for a while, because the thing with songwriting is that you can have little blocks. Personally, with stuff going on in your life, you can have little blocks. And I went through a period with just some personal stuff, and then, you know, coming back here and moving home, and then everything with mum and whatever, where I just couldn't write. I'd sit down to write a song and nothing that I was proud of came out lyrically that I'd want to put onto a record and release. And again, being a bit of a perfectionist, I'm like, I'm not just going to release tracks for the sake of it. And so that's been sort of hard, because it's like, as a songwriter, again, unless you're writing and releasing music as a recording artist, you know, people forget. So even though I had a big track years ago, it's like I've got to constantly be, you know, releasing tracks and in the charts and doing stuff. So that's something over this next year and the year after that I'm really going to work a little harder on, is because have been letting the live element, like doing all the gigs and stuff, because it's my bread and butter. I've been letting that sort of be the forefront and not going into the studio, because the thing with going into the studio is that it takes time. You know, you've got to work on writing the right track, getting that hit, you know, getting in the studio, releasing it and stuff. So it's a focus that I want to do, especially with House Odyssey now. We're going to be, you know, working on some stuff in the studio and releasing an album and stuff. That's that's sort of the next step. But yeah, just back to the thing about the age thing, like I also want to work now more on this creative hub and having a passive income and having another income.
That's what I was going to say. And you're very fortunate in the sense you do actually have a whole, like, what's the word, like with the hairdressing.
Yeah. A second
trade.
career, second income.
Yeah, you do have a trade. So it's like you could at least know you always fall on that. Whereas if you didn't have that, then yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think that I've thought about this a lot, just back to that question. Would I ever like give up performing? I won't, you know, like I was like joking the other week with a friend, like you'll see me in my little sparkly sequins at 60 up there. Like, you know, I just love performing. I love giving that gift of my voice. I am going to go back to studying though, because I really want to get into music therapy. I've started of late, probably the last 3 years now, really getting into the study of how music is healing and how it can, you know, really help with cognitive health, depression, anxiety, like so many social issues as well. And you get on a dance floor and you dance and all your problems dissipate, you know, with people that have maybe got dementia or Parkinson's disease, and you put on their favorite music and all of a sudden they're verbal and they're coherent for that minimal time where that song's on, or they're at a piano playing, they can speak again, they're coherent, and as soon as the music stops, they go back to ground zero of being nonverbal and having very diminished cognitive response. I'm intrigued. It absolutely intrigues me.
It sounds so, like it's fascinating, right? Music is the answer. But the reason I was smiling is Cameron from Rave Reviews. He's a psychiatrist and he does all that kind of stuff. And
you know that?
Yeah.
I was so calling you tomorrow.
Yeah, he's a psychiatrist.
Amazing.
And he said that there's actually this weird connection with his two careers where he uses his professionalism on the field of research and his love for music. It's really cool. Really cool.
I'm going to give him a call. I know him. I'll give him a
He's
call.
in LA.
Okay.
Yeah, but call him anyway.
When he's back, I'll definitely get in touch. Only because I just did a pip talk, which is like a passion industry, some girls that I know put these little events together, and it's bringing people in different industries together and talking about their passion and their ideas and etc. And so the one on last week was actually last Tuesday, so a week ago, was on music. There was some amazing speakers.
I know, I'm devastated I didn't get to come. I got held up at work.
Fine, yeah. There'll be other ones, but yeah, my talk was on the correlation between music and healing and the healing journey. And as I said, dementia, Parkinson's, and depression, anxiety, etc., and how music can be healing and lift your spirits or give you that cognitive improvement, etc. And I'm just, again, we're just topped on it, but I so intrigued by it. It's something that I want to go back and actually study at uni and get into music therapy. Reeling back to what we said about, are you worried about the future? Not at all. I'll always stay in music, whether it's on stage performing, whether it's DJing. I think the one thing about music that I love is that age doesn't actually deter you, because you just get better and better with more experience. So yes, you'll see sometimes in vocalists a slight decline of their range. So they might have had a bigger range when they were younger, and it slightly can decline because the muscles start to degenerate a little bit. I DJ as well, so I can always play. That knowledge of music's just going to get better and better. But yeah, no, I'll always have a hand in music somehow, whether it's through therapy, whether it's through performing, whether it's through teaching. It's something that is just so, so passionate to me. That I'll never be able to give it up. So
well, that's very refreshing to hear, and it's good. I was just curious. Sorry, I was like, should I ask? I didn't want to come across
it's
rude.
A very valid question,
because I was like, a lot of the people that have been coming on here are like probably at the opposite end to their career. They're just breaking into music, and they've been really interesting to speak to as to like, okay, you've decided you want to do this. How have you done it? Whereas like you've lived through it all, and it's like, as you get older, there's different kinds of threats and struggles. Like, right now there's so much competition, whereas you've got the experience.
And I'm competing with girls half my age most of the time. But I just don't feel like it's a competition for me ever. I'm one of those artists that feels like there's room for all of us. I don't like competition. I'm not I'm not a person that would compare myself to someone half my age. We've all got our different strengths. Yeah, okay, she might be younger and cuter and have a group of friends that are all going out and partying, that mine are all married and at home watching Netflix and stuff. So on that level, but then again, as many people point out to me over the years, you've got experience on your side, babe. You cannot, that is so valuable, the experience and knowledge of music, that sort of, knowledge of the industry, etc., that you can't buy that when you're
no, experience is experience. It's like in any industry anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Would you rather someone who doesn't know what they're doing or someone experienced? Generally, you're always going to go with someone experienced.
Of course. But also, I feel like, just on that note, when you were saying a lot of the people you've been interviewing are sort of, just starting out, I feel a little bit like I'm starting all over again too, because again, I've come back to
rebuilding
my country as, as someone that, okay, the guys that were around back in my day all know me, but as I said, the new promoters, I'm just, proving myself and working my way. So I feel like I've had a rebirth of my career again anyway, and I'm sort of, in the same boat as some of those people starting out, having to find ways to keep it fresh, having to find ways to keep, reinventing yourself and working. When it comes to the social media aspect we were talking about earlier, like, you've got to constantly think of new ways to reinvent, and what post do I do and what do I write on that post and how do I do it, etc., etc. It's like the bane of my existence. But you know
my friend Rachel, don't you? Lost and Found.
Yeah,
Rachel Rush, yeah.
She's
actually the first person. She's the one ages ago. I think when I just started, she recommended that I speak to you. But she is queen. So yeah, queen social media. She's so good. I have no idea what I'm doing either, by the way. None. It's
like a minefield.
Winging it. winging it. But yeah,
You're doing well. Your page looks good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
doing well.
Yeah, again, just winging it. But yeah, Rachel recommended it. She's good. She's a good person to speak to.
Yeah, so I played for some boat parties for her before.
Yeah,
so
she's the
lovely.
best.
Yeah,
so nice.
exactly.
And she comes across like so innocent, but she is wild. Some of her stories is like shocking behavior.
Really?
Yeah, she's a dark
I need to go
horse.
for a coffee with her sometime
Yeah.
and hear those stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell me about the side projects that you're working on.
So I'm starting up a creative hub called Bondi Creative Hub. So basically the idea of it is that we're going to bring creative arts together under one roof. So it will be music, hair, art, tattooing, fashion, videography. There'll be also like a co-networking space where creatives can all come together and use the space for their projects, whether they need to film something or they need to do hair and makeup for filming something or they need to record something.
Sounds like, how big are we talking?
Well, I want a warehouse, but there's no warehouses in Bondi, so we're looking at different options at the moment. The main thing that's holding us back at the moment is finding the right location. I have thought about moving outside of Bondi and going to sort of like maybe Alexandria or Marrickville, around there where there are warehouse spaces. But at the moment we're also looking at maybe looking at a space in Bondi Junction where we can still have, the concept we're having and turn it into looking like a warehouse, like an old office building or something like that. But the good thing about it is that, we've got a lot of support from like the mayor of Waverley and Emmanuel, the head of Bondi Business Chamber, love the project. They want to really get behind it. So I feel like it's just something that in the eastern suburbs that's missing, like you've got over it, like you say, Marrickville and Newtown and over there, got lots of creative hubs and creative ideas and whatever. And in Bondi, there's lots of little different, like start tech sort of hubs and things like that, but no one really doing creative arts. And as I said, after COVID, we were the one industry that got hit really hard, and a lot of artists, as I said earlier, and musicians sold off their music equipment. They had to get rid of their studios because they couldn't afford rent plus the rent of the studio. So a lot of them have been left in a sort of situation now where they need a space to go and create their art, but they just don't have it because they live maybe in a shared house or they live in a small studio or a one bed and they just don't have that space. So that's sort of where the idea came from of like, I had the idea, I was actually going to do it in Dubai years ago for just women. So like basically a hub where like women breaking into the media or arts or music industry could come and be trained, because over there's a lot of projects that are very, very focused on, supporting women, because for many, many years they were oppressed. They weren't allowed to go to work. They weren't allowed to have their own businesses. They weren't allowed to, God forbid, that they were allowed to perform on stage or sing or do anything,
Mental, isn't it? Mental.
And that wasn't that long ago back.
No.
We're looking at like 30 years ago, like not even. So things have obviously changed now and progressed a lot more. So that was the idea of the concept of why I wanted to do it. I was like, well, these young girls like that are wanting to, grow up into this industry need mentoring. So I was going to get a bunch of mentors, the best of the best in the industry, to come and mentor them and stuff. And I still will do that in the Creative Hub. Once we get established, I'll still do workshops for women that want to break in. And again, because it is a passion subject to me, about supporting young women in the industry, and giving them women like of my age or something that have been in the industry decades, that have had all these experience, showing them the things. I wish at 20 starting out that I had a mentor to say, when you sign a contract, don't do this. When you go and watch out for this in the industry, watch out for these predators, watch out for that, like
I need a mentor.
We all need mentors, like definitely. I still need a mentor now.
Yeah, I do, because I'm like, ultimately, like, I don't know what I'm doing in this space, and I was like, so maybe you can help me out.
Have you met Nancy Lipman?
No.
You need to speak to her. I'll introduce you. She's amazing, and she's I think now just joined the board of Women in Music, and she is a business coach and a a coach that really want to support women in the arts and beyond. Obviously, she doesn't just do the arts, but she's great. She's great as a sort of coach that'll really, you know, mentor and get you in and stuff. So like, I'll introduce you. She's really great. You. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a little bit conscious. It's just started raining, and as you can see, we're in a makeshift home studio, so it might get a little bit noisy. But I just had a couple of questions left on the Collective Hub. So what's your kind of business model? Is it going to be all of the business owners collaborate together and they pay a fee and then you share what's your actual intended model? Because it sounds so interesting.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, the idea with it at the beginning, I think that we'll have it as a space where people can come in and they can rent the space for the day. Then we'll also do a business model where creatives, like for the hub itself, will run the business and we'll run different things. So we'll have people like, I'm going to have treatment rooms so girls can come in and do Reiki, they can do healing. We'll have like different opportunities for even like the barbers could rent a chair. People can come in and rent a space in the hair and the barber section. We're going to have an art studio as well with art lessons. So I'm going to do little sort of pop-up nights where we do like naked painting, you know, sip and have a little wine and naked painting and a DJ playing. Even with the hairdressing like part, we'll have DJs come in and play while you're getting your hair cut. I just want to make it really fun and really different and really interesting. But for the co-networking space, the idea that I'd like to do is that people can join it on like a membership base, and then they can swap their services with each other. So for instance, you might be a photographer that needs to do a shoot and you need a space with a green a backdrop, like, you know, a green screen. And you also might need hair and makeup done. So our hair and makeup artists could work on it. They can swap. Everyone can swap, because the one thing I find with artistic projects that's sometimes the hardest thing to get them off the ground is people don't have budget, especially nowadays with the cost of living crisis and everything.
So everyone help each other out.
Everyone help on their projects, and they do it in like a point system. So you might have, say, I haven't worked out the exact way we'll do it yet, but say it's 100 points or something, right? You might go and work on a project, and so you use 10 points to get a photographer, and then the photographer might need hair and makeup. They'll use their points to, you know, and everyone can swap their services with each other. So back in the day, it's very Burning Man style, but it's like a barter system. Everyone just helps each other out with their projects to get that creative flow going, and money shouldn't have to be, you know, a block. And I see so many creative projects not get off the ground because money is an issue. So I want to alleviate that.
It's like this, right? This could be, if I had money for someone to help me, I have so many ideas. Obviously, crazy ADHD brain over here.
Yeah.
I've got like 1,000 ideas. I'm like, I don't have the time because I have to go to work.
Yeah.
I've obviously got this on recording on my iPhone 15. I'm not that I have any desire to be behind the camera, but it could probably be a bit more engaging if I was in it too. And like, do you know what I mean? 100%. But I'm like, I can't do it. So I'm like, I'm just making do with what I got, and hopefully it's already picking up so much more traction than when I started, which is great. But, you know, hopefully there'll be a point in time where I am able to get some sort of income from it, because then I can cut back at work and then I can invest the time back into it. And then it's like
100%. And that's the thing, like, the one thing that, again, is another passion thing for me is that overseas, artists can live from their craft, whereas here, most artists have day jobs, and they have to because of the cost of living, because Sydney is one of the, I think it's the second most expensive place in the world or something.
That's wild.
Yeah. So, you know, for you to be able to want to like leave a full-time job to go and do your artistic, it's just not feasible at the moment. But yet further down the line, as the industry, you know, like moves forward and creatives come together and work on different things, you know, you could get to a stage where this could take off, and, you know, this will take off. and you
manifest
it. Yeah. I always speak in manifesting terms. So it's like, this will take off. When this does take off for you, and you can sort of maybe, you know, have the full-time job as a part-time consultant sort of thing, and do this as more of a full-time thing, and get sponsors and this and that. And, you know, I just dream big. I've always been a person that dreams big. Yeah, I wouldn't have the career that I've had if I didn't take chances and dream big, and, you know, like just not play small. So yeah, so that's I suppose the way to end on my thing. Don't play small, play big. always believe that there's a yes or no answer to anything. So I'll ask. You know, people that know me will know. I'll just ask, and you can say yes or no. I won't be offended if it's a no. It'll just be, it wasn't meant to be.
Well, it's funny because through this process, through nothing but just hustling my way in, I made so many friends across the Sydney music industry now, and then that's already one layer unlocked, because it's just like, life is just one big game. You just have to meet people, see what happens, go with it, take your chances, be out there and just see what happens. And if you're just gonna, like, you just have to go for it, really.
And that's it. You're just out there shining your light and wanting to make a difference and wanting to do something different is a change. You know, it's a change. It's a positive change. And so, like, more of us need to be out there doing that, you know. I absolutely love that you just one day went, I want to do a podcast. I've got shit to say, you know. And it's like, it's important because more of us need to have people like you who say, like, this is why when you said, do you want to do it? I'm like, yeah.
Oh my God. So like, near enough, a couple of people don't text you back. A couple of people, two people have politely declined. Others just haven't texted back. But most of all, I would say like 90% of the people I've reached out to have either come on or they're booked in. Okay, Simonne, so this has been amazing and really appreciate your time. Just in the interest of the fucking weather and time, it's pouring down. We might just wrap it up there unless you've got any final words.
Thank you for having me. Really excited to see where, you know, this goes for you, because again, dream big and manifest everything. So I'd love to come back on further down the line and we can talk about where you've come since now.
I love looking back of reflection. I'm a big nostalgic person. I love looking back. I can't wait. And I can't wait to see where all of your stuff comes. Everyone I've come on, like, they've obviously shared so much with me, which is so kind of them, but now I'm so invested in their stories. So when I see them reaching little milestones that we may or may not have talked about, like, on air, would you say? It's so nice to see. So yeah, I love it. And yeah, thanks for being such a woman, like a girl's girl too, because I think that's nice. I think it's needed. Especially a lot of people come from overseas who don't have their female relatives here. They need people, especially if it's in their field, that they can look up to for some trusty advice and all that kind of stuff.
Well, actually, Jess herself is someone, I don't know if you know her, she's an DJ, who's reached out to me, and she's like the same. She's come over here and she's like, oh, let's hang out. And I'm like, yeah, definitely. She's like half my age, but she's super fun, really lovely girl. And, you know,
age is just a number.
100%, you know, like, anyone that knows me knows that I definitely don't act, you know, unless it comes to business and that sort of thing, then yeah. But, like, you know, ultimately, I am a girly girl, and I am all for, like, supporting women that are chasing their dreams in whichever industry they're in, because, like, we cannot let
men.
I wasn't going to go there, but if you we cannot let, like, blocks get in our way, and a lot of it is just limiting self-belief. So we go, oh, I can't do that, you know. Yeah, we all think that because we're humans, right? And we're human, and so ultimately we think that maybe that's not achievable. That's why I always say, so ending on that note, just dream big. Always dream big.
Dream big. Reach for the stars, baby.
Reach for the stars.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I look forward to getting this out.